Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International at this time. I am Habiba Oladipo. We begin with a look at the headlines. Nigerian Center for Disease Control interviewing 6,000 people amid spread of COVID-19 in Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari meets Presidential Economic Committee on COVID-19, seeks protection for poor Nigerians. Plus, civil society organizations commend federal government conditional cash transfer to vulnerable Nigerians. Many thanks for being there. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has assured Nigerians that the items received from China to combat the spread of COVID-19 in the country are not contaminated. The chairman of the task force and secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, gave the assurance at today's briefing. The task force also said about 6,000 persons are currently being interviewed by officials of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, saying they are those who had contacts with infected persons.
8 in Oyo, 5 in Akwa Ibom, 4 each in Ogun, Edo, and Kaduna, 3 in Bauchi, 2 each in Enugu and Ekiti, and 1 each in Rivers and Benue states.
There was also a clarification on the 4-hour window for markets to open during the lockdown. The task force said only food markets close to neighborhoods and not big ones in the metropolis are permitted to open between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
As we continue to assess the readiness for containment and management, we recognize strongly the importance of synergy with the states. It is important that states, whether in the front line where cases have been reported or where cases have not been reported yet, to intensify the preparation of facilities that will help in the event of a surge.
Every day we add a new state. Every single day we have to deploy a new team. It requires resources, people, logistics, efforts. This is a significant exercise, and we are assuring every state that we will continue to do everything necessary to support them to respond to these events that are unfolding in our country.
Like in fake news, is actually distracting our fight against COVID-19. And I think this is quite unhelpful. It's been trending on the social media that the equipment and aid that we receive from China, from Jack Ma, they've all been infected with the virus. This is not true.
And as coronavirus cases near 1 million worldwide, there are growing concerns in several countries about shortages of protection equipment for medical workers. Here is Joyce Ometu with development on COVID-19 around the world.
In the next few days, the world will see confirmed COVID-19 cases reach 1 million and death tally may climb to 50,000. The chief of World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, noted this on Wednesday. The WHO situation dashboard indicated that the pandemic has killed nearly 50,000 people globally, as over 900,000 infections have been reported across 203 countries. And nearly 200,000 are said to have recovered. Africa now has a total of 49 countries affected, reporting over 6,000 cases, over 200 deaths and nearly 500 recoveries. The World Health Organization warns that Africa, Central and South America, which has relatively fewer confirmed cases so far, could see serious social, economic and political consequences of COVID-19. Meanwhile, the West African Health Organization has distributed over 3,000 diagnostic test kits to 15 ECOWAS member states. The organization says it has strengthened the capacity of all its members. They have also conducted several other regional training on risk communication, emergency operations, and a simulation exercise for the regional rapid response teams. In other news, Kenya says the country will receive $50 million from the World Bank to fund efforts intended to prevent the spread of coronavirus. Kenya's health minister has said the amount will be used to procure protective gear for health workers, hand sanitizers, as well as increasing bed capacity in hospitals. Let's look at the U.S., where there have been 884 deaths in the past 24 hours. A new record. It takes the total deaths there to more than 5,000. President Trump has admitted that the government's strategic reserves of protective equipment and medical supplies to combat the coronavirus are nearly exhausted. Similarly, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says coronavirus testing needs to be increased massively. This is how he said the UK would defeat the virus. Still in the UK, Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge has become the first in that region to use a much quicker test for staff and patients, known as Samba 2. It gives a result in just 90 minutes. Meanwhile, British Airways is set to suspend 36,000 staff until the coronavirus crisis is over. And a glimmer of hope, as there could be promising signs coming out of Italy, the worst affected country in terms of deaths, where fatalities have now dropped to their lowest daily figure in nearly a week. The country will now be the first to receive financial help from the European Union. This is to make up for the reduction in wages and to preserve jobs amid the economic havoc wreaked by coronavirus restrictions. While Spain's death toll has risen by 950 in a single day. It brings the total there to over 10,000, the second highest in the world, behind Italy. In Russia, the number of cases has risen by almost 800 over the past 24 hours, and that's the biggest daily jump there. And these are some latest developments on COVID-19. We'll bring you more updates as they unfold. I am Joyce Umetu.
Many thanks, Joyce. And in a related development, the European Union has airlifted the first batch of French and German nationals, numbering 630, from the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. Abolade Salami reports that the travelers passed through several screenings to confirm their health status before boarding.
The international wing of Murtala Mohammed Airport recorded a bit of activities owing to the exit of EU nationals from Germany and France.
Would all passengers traveling on flight FR3421 please have your boarding passes?
The profiling of travelers started with the verification of documents and screening of luggages to ascertain the authenticity of their papers under the supervision of German police and officials from the embassy. Meanwhile, travelers on board Air France were subjected to same processes of verification. However, information provided on the manifest reveals that Air France has 390 passengers on board, while Lufthansa Airline was carrying more than 230 passengers. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has announced the discharge of 11 more patients from the isolation center in Yaba. In a statement on his official Twitter handle, the governor said the patients have fully recovered and returned to their families. Meanwhile, the federal government directive on lockdown in Lagos, Abuja and Ogun states is still in full force, but achieving full compliance in some satellite towns in the FCT remains a challenge. Onenge Fine-Faves reports from Kurudu, where some people took advantage of the 4-hour window of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. approved by government to come out to assess essential needs.
It's the third day of the stay-at-home order, but there is still a sense of activity and mobility here in Kurudu or Rozo Karachi area of the Federal Capital Territory. Now, motorists, tricycles and motorbikes are still on the road. Private drivers are out there, while commercial drivers are still conveying passengers from one location to the other. Now, going by the response of this young man, it's obvious that a lot of residents in this area depend on their daily outing for survival. But how appropriate that is in the face of a stay-at-home order is still not clear.
Many thanks, Onengie. And in a related development, we now join Justin's Bem Unyi to have a feel of the atmosphere at Maraba Nyanya Access.
You see most shops under lock. Major shopping malls are still closed, but it appears some traders want them open. Here, social distancing is one directive these people are not subscribing to. Vehicular movements, especially commercial motorcycles, tricycles and buses, seem not to feel any form of lockdown or restriction. One other place, same in Maraba, is the marketplace. Normal business atmosphere, same crowd, but basically in the business of buying and selling of food items. All these pictures were taken after 2 p.m., the official time allowed for shops and stores within markets selling food and groceries to open. And here came a sharp contrast at the Nyanya Axis, a suburb of Abuja that is just few meters away from Maraba. Restriction of movement was seen fully enforced, giving way to empty roads as against the normal busy expressway on any other day. Security and health officials were seen at checkpoints to run checks and screens, allowing only those on essential duties to transit. Justin Bemuni, NTA News.
And we now have in the studio the Chairman FCT Task Force on Lockdown Compliance, Mr. Ikairo Atta. You're welcome to NTA International at this time.
Many thanks, Habiba, many thanks, our NTA family.
Okay, so today is day 3 of the lockdown, and this is a measure to contain the spread of COVID-19. How has been the compliance level amongst residents of the FCT?
Thank you very much, Habiba. It has been very wonderful for us and very somewhat wonderful in the sense that we got results in some area, we got challenges in some area, but when you go out to work, you understand that work is no play here. And Habiba, putting it very clearly here, you cannot pinpoint the compliance level in terms of percentage in Abuja as a whole. You can only put it based on district by district, location by location. And I'm proud to tell you that in the city center, here we have like we have NTA now in Gariki, the CDS, the Maitama, the Wuse, Asukura and others. Compliance level is very, very high, about 95% here. But when you start to go to some satellite towns like Karo, you find it very nice. Some part of Kubo are very good here. When you now go dig deep into areas like Mpape, areas like Karishi, like Orozo, you start to see it within the context of about 40 to 50% compliance in all the contests here. I think the compliance level for me is improving, it's encouraging, because those are the suburbs largely believe in Habiba that they don't have anything with coronavirus, that in Abuja what we see in coronavirus, likely those who can fly, who have been in Europe, who are coming into the country, that's the perception they have out there. But we are still conscientizing them, talking with them to get them to understand the reason why they should comply fully. But the compliance level in the FCT is very encouraging.
Will you say you still have cases of religious leaders and followers still meeting to have religious worships? What will you say about that? How is that enforcing?
Yeah, the issue of religious leaders, I think we are dealing with that very strongly here. We had cause to go out here, talk to persons, tend to get them to say, look, you can't gather in large number now, knowing fully well the sad irony of what happened in South Korea, where a particular lady who ought to have gone home went into a church, and in that particular single instance, after about some weeks, people in that church, over 10,000 of them plus, actually contracted coronavirus. That's what I got from the social media here, and I've seen that trending as well. We don't allow that to worship, particularly in churches and mosques. We've been able to shut down almost all the mosques as well as all the churches in Abuja. We are having chance to deal with some of the ones who actually meet in residential and estate neighborhood here, and we're asking them to please go home, because sometimes they congregate in numbers that are large, and most times there is no sufficient social distancing to avoid contact, and also issues that are plenty that are not too hygienic at this moment here. But so far so good. We are dealing with a religious group. We have Minister of the FCT, Malam Mohammed Musa Bello, with the Minister of State for the FCT, Ramatu Tijani Aliu, have been interfacing with Akan leadership here, headed by Reverend Jonah, as well as the head of the Ulamas and the Imam of the Central Mosque. They have been meeting and talking constantly here, and many thanks to all of them, agreeing that, look, for now, it's good we go indoors, pray to God if we are Christian, pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we are Muslim, and wait until the time when we are done with coronavirus so that we can go out and get very gigantic, like someone put it here, Friday prayer and even Eid prayer, as well as also very mighty and powerful crusades that will have so much large number with mammoth crowd. But for now, everyone is advised to please avoid such gathering and remain indoor.
I'm sure Nigerians can't wait to go back to churches and their mosques. But just before I let you go, there are so many vehicular movements today. Even coming to work myself, I saw so many vehicles. You can't tell me all those vehicles are vehicles owned by essential workers, can you?
I can tell you yes, Abiba, because I actually went around on inspection here. I went to some part of the city. Early this morning, I was at the Wuse market as early as to 6 a.m. I was also at Mpape. I got to somewhere in Dusi Alahaji. I thanks to the news the news you play, your third news in this bulletin, showing some clarification made by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. So when that information was given out yesterday during the task force briefing in the evening, many misunderstood it, thinking that they can only rush to the market here, not knowing that they need to work within their neighborhood market. We saw so many persons pushing to the market, and the sector that the task force actually allowed are the informal sector, those who deal on groceries and those who are pharmaceutical. So all these persons, we are rushing out to work early this morning here, and most of them live in the suburbs. That's the truth. The man who says tomatoes, pepper, crayfish, onions, maggi, egusi, ugu at Wuse market don't live among the big people around. They live somewhere at Suleja, Madala, maybe Mpape, maybe Dusi Alahaji, maybe Yanya, maybe Karo, maybe Maraba, maybe Orozo. So they were all struggling to get to Wuse. But thanks to the clarification now that everything must be in the neighborhood here, and we got time to. But also a very sad one, which I must state here very clearly, some persons who are also essential staff but are not on duty, like some uniform guys, just took their car keys and start to, let me call it, loaf around the city. We saw many of them here. We saw some of them, which I think was also very sad. Some of them had to even engage in doing kabu-kabu, engaging in taxi work here.
Many thanks, Mr. Ikaro. That's the much you can take. Okay, too many questions for you, but so little time.
Thank you very much, Abiba Aladi, for a wonderful time being here.
Thank you very much, Chairman, FCT Task Force on Lockdown Compliance, Ikaro Atta, for sharing your time and your thoughts with us on the news. Moving on, residents of Abuja are taking full advantage of the 4 hours windows provided by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for people in the lockdown states and FCT to buy and sell essential products and produce. The lockdown is increasing demands and supply of food items among family members. Musa Babaliu has more.
Most residents of Abuja relied on eateries for their lunch during the weekdays due to the nature of their work and business. Only dinner and sometimes breakfast are taken at home with the family.
Of course, lunch will have to be after, because there's no how your employer will allow you to rush home even at the break hour and take a longer period. Because first and foremost, you have to do school runs within that hour.
Civil servants, sometimes they don't have time to go back home to eat, so they prefer to eat nearby restaurants.
With the lockdown, they are forced to stay at home, meaning that all the 3 square meals are to be taken at home with the family.
Once you don't go to work, you stay at home, you'll be tempted to eat 3 times, even up to 4 times in a day. So you're spending more than what you've been spending before.
This is my second time of eating today, and children have to eat, dependents have to eat, wife have to eat. You see, consumption budget has seriously gone up.
Nkechi Aduma is at this mini market located at Area 10 Garki, Abuja, to buy more food items for her family, taking advantage of the window provided by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for people in the lockdown states and the FCT to buy their daily needs. She says food consumption in her house has increased significantly. However, decried increase in the prices of some essential commodities.
The prices have increased a little because of the shutdown.
Not only Nkechi, other consumers share same view, but appreciating the window provided to enable them have access to more essential commodities.
It's only tomato that I've been able to buy at the normal price right now. Yam and some other things on the increase.
Normally I will buy this pineapple for 500 naira, I've been bargaining since you saw me there, 5 minutes, and we'll finish at 600.
You never see anything chorus here, better day here. Nothing here. Market day here, fine.
A visit to farmers market on the outskirts of Abuja shows that the lockdown and restriction of movement is not affecting the distribution and supply of food items. Drivers say security agents allow them free movement from one location to another. I brought these tomatoes and vegetables from Kiru in Kano State with no obstacle till I reached this location in Abuja, he says. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. It's time to take a break. We'll be back shortly with more reports. Many thanks for being there. As Nigeria sustains efforts towards containing the coronavirus pandemic, President Muhammadu Buhari insists that value must be retained within the economy, while the poor and vulnerable remain protected. The president gave the order at a strategic engagement with the Presidential Committee assessing the impact of COVID-19 on the nation's economy. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
President Muhammadu Buhari and members of the committee, headed by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, analyzed the COVID-19 crisis on the economy, the various intervention measures introduced by government, as well as further steps to be taken in the best interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. Speaking to NTA News after the closed-door meeting, Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed said discussions also centered on the negative consequences of the lockdown on the economy, especially small businesses, and what needs to be done to mitigate such.
His directive is make sure salaries are paid, make sure critical infrastructure projects like roads, rails are protected. As much as possible, use local inputs so that we retain value within our economy, and also make sure that you have measures that protect the poor and the vulnerable.
The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, said President Buhari also engaged the committee members on the situation in the global oil market as a result of the coronavirus pandemic.
The economy is not in the best of shapes due to COVID-19. Oil prices are also collapsing every day. So we need to be on top of it and to brief Mr. President regularly.
What have you suggested to him?
I can't say that. The discussions are still ongoing, so we can't really say where we are now. You know, it's a developing situation. We live here now, oil prices will be different from where we left it when we were outside. So we can't really say exactly what we are discussing now, because it's something where we need to be updating regularly.
So what was his response?
Of course, he has given us his directives. I mean, he has looked at what we have told him, and he has also given us some direction on how to carry on.
It's not looking as easy as everybody thought it would be. The global economy, not naturally, like we all know at this time, will certainly suffer some very serious growth problems that may even lead to recession globally. So what we want to do is to see what can we do as a country to rescue our own situation so we don't go the direction many will go. It's not going to be easy, but we can only just assure our people that we are on top of it and that we'll resolve it, and Nigerians will still be better for it.
At the instance of the President, the Zainab Ahmed Committee continued its strategic engagement with the Presidential Committee on Economic Sustainability led by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Economic Stability Committee, headed by the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, held its inaugural meeting this Thursday in Abuja. The committee, recently constituted by President Muhammadu Buhari, is looking into how to develop and implement strategies to alleviate sufferings of Nigerians at this time. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
The Economic Sustainability Committee, recently constituted by President Muhammadu Buhari, is looking into how to develop and implement strategies to alleviate sufferings of Nigerians at this time. The committee is mandated to take care of the economic challenges posed by the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown in some parts of the country.
Of course, its implications are very clear for the economy. It has led to a downturn in practically every sector of the economy. Oil revenues have fallen precipitously. Of course, also domestic revenues have also fallen. So we're at a very critical and uncertain time in our economic history and even in our history as a nation.
This inaugural meeting is regarded as crucial as major steps have to be taken, such as developing a sustainability plan on repositioning the economy, growing the non-oil sector, and turning the situation to opportunities. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of medical directors of Neuropsychiatric Hospital Calabar, Cross River State, and the Federal Medical Center Jalingo, Taraba State. A statement by Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, gave the names of the appointed directors as Dr. Basi Eyo Edet, Neuropsychiatrist Hospital Calabar, and Dr. Aisha Shehu Adamu, Federal Medical Center Jalingo, Taraba State. Dr. Edet hails from Akpabio local government area of Cross River State and graduated from the University of Calabar in 1998. He is a fellow of the National Postgraduate Medical College in Psychiatry and also fellow of the National Institute of Management Consultant. His appointment as medical director for initial term of 4 years takes effect from March 25, 2020. While Dr. Aisha Shehu Adamu is a consultant, physician, gastroenterologist and hepatologist. She hails from Caribbean Lamido local government area of Taraba State and graduated from the University of Maiduguri in 1997. She completed her residency in 2008 and received fellowship of the National Postgraduate Medical College. Her appointment as medical director for initial term of 4 years takes effect from March 25, 2020. And global sports calendar continues to be readjusted amidst coronavirus pandemic. Kene Emabodike tells us more on sports updates.
Following the shift in 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers from March till October due to the outbreak of coronavirus, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has decided to hold discussions with FIFA over a possible change to the 2022 World Cup qualifiers. The 2022 World Cup qualifiers are slated to begin later in the year, with teams already in the groups and the group winners moving straight into the final round of the qualifiers. Meanwhile, CAF President Ahmad Ahmad further confirms that the Championship of African Nations CHAN 2020, which has been suspended indefinitely, will not take place during mid-year due to Cameroon's weather conditions. Still on football, all Champions League and Europa League matches have been suspended until further notice by UEFA because of the global coronavirus pandemic. All national team games in June have also been postponed, including playoff matches for Euro 2020 and qualified matches for the women.
And that is the news at this time. Many thanks for watching. I am Habiba Oladipo.